And welcome back to an Election Forecast 2020 video. This is my second video. My first one was on the presidential election that is upcoming this November, so I figured I might as well talk about the Senate elections. I think that this year's Senate elections will be arguably the most important, at least in my lifetime. With the House all but assured to go back into Democratic hands and the presidency leaning towards Joe Biden at this point, the Senate could be the last firewall between Democratic legislation coming from the House and President Biden's desk. So, if I were a Republican, my first priority would be to maintain control of the Senate. However, things are not looking up for them right now. At first, it was a long shot for Democrats to gain control of the Senate through this map. There are a lot of strong Republican seats that are up, and there weren't many pickup opportunities. However, Democrats have solidified seats that could have been possible flips towards the Republican Party and have created opportunities in other states that were previously considered out of bounds. So, needless to say, this will be a very interesting election. And now, let's jump in to my prediction. First off, actually, I want to tell you I'm using 270 to win, and in this video, I have a different palette so I can show you tilt, lean, likely, safe, so on and so forth. So now, let's actually jump into the predictions. Okay, first off, let's start with the safe Democratic states. Oregon. My home state, Jeff Merkley, the incumbent senator, will easily win re-election there against, frankly, the Republicans nominated kind of a nutcase in this election, so it'll be easy for him to win re-election. New Mexico. New Mexico was once considered up for grabs with an incumbent retiring. However, this seat is very likely to remain in Democratic hands. Excuse me. Next, more safe seats. Illinois. This is Senator Dick Durbin's seat, the minority whip, possibly the majority whip. That is very much a safe seat for him. He has held that seat for a very long time. What else? Anything here? Let's move on to the Northeast. Delaware, very much a safe state. New Jersey, as well as a safe state. Rhode Island is a safe state. Massachusetts is a safe state. There's a very interesting Democratic primary going on there in between the incumbent, Senator Ed Markey, who's most famously known for co-authoring the Green New Deal and sponsoring it in the Senate, and a congressman, Joe Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy's grandson. He's making it a very interesting race with his name recognition. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. The primary is in early September, so we still have a little bit to figure out who will win that race. But essentially that is the Senate election, the Democratic primary there. I would also label Virginia as a safe state for Democrats. Mark Warner is facing very limited competition for that seat, and I fully expect him to be able to carry that. Minnesota as well, I would consider a safe state. Tina Smith's seat, the seat that was once held by Al Franken. There's pretty much no contest for Tina Smith. She will carry the seat. And in New Hampshire, Republicans were hoping that they'd have a chance in the seat. However, I'm labeling it safe for the Democrat Jeanne Shaheen, the former governor. Republicans have mounted little opposition there, and it is very likely that that seat will stay in Democratic hands. And those are all the safe Democratic seats. Yes, I believe that is it. So now we'll move on to the safe Republican seats. First off, Idaho, certainly a safe state, as well as Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tom Cotton's seat. He's been in hot water recently for his comments saying that slavery was a, quote, a necessary evil. Louisiana, very much a safe site, very safe seat. Tennessee as well. And West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito's seat is certainly safe. Those are all the safe Republican states. As you can see, there is a lot of potential pickups for either party here. And it might... Actually, we'll get onto that later. First, we're going to label the likely seats for either party. First off, let's start with the Republican states. Mississippi is likely. It should be safe. It's a rematch of the 2018 election between Mike Espy and Cindy Hyde-Smith, the incumbent. Mississippi is a very diverse state, has the highest percentage of black people. And if the black population turns out in high enough numbers, it is possible that Mississippi can become a swing state in the future, especially if it keeps diversifying at the rate that it is. South Carolina is kind of in the same camp. It is a very rapidly diversifying state with a heavy black population. South Carolina is a potential future swing state, in my opinion, and I think it will be both likely in the Senate and likely in the presidential election. I suspect that both the margin in favor of Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump will be very similar, possibly in the 10-point range. So I'm comfortable labeling that as likely. I'm also comfortable labeling Kentucky as likely. This is the dream seat for Democrats. They want to unseat Mitch McConnell very badly, understandably, given he is the Republican leader in the Senate, and it would be quite an achievement for Democrats to oust him from that seat. However, Mitch McConnell is a very experienced politician who has won numerous elections despite having an extremely low approval rating. He's the second least approved of senator behind Susan Collins of Maine. So that is a seat that Democrats would love to have, but it is likely going to stay in the hands of Mitch McConnell. Next, we're going to move on to Alaska. I would say this is likely Republican. Alaska, usually a safe state at the presidential level. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put Alaska as a lean state. I'm going to do it. Al Gross is making things very interesting there. There are limited polls out right now. So I can't make too much of a judgment as to how it will turn out on election day, but as of now, it is a very close race. I still expect it to remain in Dan Sullivan, the incumbent Republican's hands, but Al Gross, the independent, who is expected to caucus with the Democrats, is making things very, very interesting right now. As for more likely Republican states, I will label Kentucky, Texas, a likely Republican state. While it is a swing state on the presidential level, with Joe Biden currently leading in the 538 polling average by about 0.6 points, I still expect Texas to go to John Cornyn by possibly an 8 to 9 point margin. All polling indicates that John Cornyn will significantly outperform Donald Trump's margins in Texas. They could have had a shot at Texas if Beto O'Rourke would have not run for president and ran for this seat. I think they would have had a real chance of picking it up in that scenario, but clearly that is not the case. Let's move on to Michigan. Michigan is also a likely state, however this time in favor of the Democrats. This was a potential pickup opportunity for Republicans. However, it's probably not going to happen. They're running a failed candidate who lost in 2018 in the race against Debbie Stabenow. And despite the incumbent running again, Gary Peters, having lower name recognition than Stabenow, I certainly expect him to be able to carry the seat because he is polling in the double digits. He's polling ahead by double digits in front of John James, the conservative darling, and he certainly has a future in the Republican Party. But I expect both Gary Peters and Joe Biden to carry the state of Michigan. The rest of these states I would consider to be in between lean and tilt margins. People are probably seeing this and saying Alabama, it's likely Republican, but I'm going to keep it as lean. Despite the fact that Donald Trump is incredibly popular in Alabama, and Tommy Tuberville certainly knows that and is directly, his candidacy is based around Donald Trump. I'd argue more so than the actual issues. He's basically painting himself as a loyal advocate for President Trump, and his campaign hopes are tied to President Trump's popularity in Alabama. And certainly he is very popular, and I expect Tommy Tuberville to come out and win this seat. However, I expect it to be closer than people are making it out to be. I don't think Alabama is a lost cause. I think Doug Jones has somewhat of a chance, although I do expect him to lose, and all polling indicates at this point that he will lose. So I'd keep it in the lean margin for now. As for other lean states, I'd label both Georgia elections as lean. I actually say the regular Senate election is tilt, and the special one is lean. I think that the regular Senate election between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue is a lot closer than the special election, where in all likelihood Doug Collins will come out on top in front of the incumbent, the appointed Senator Kelly Loeffler, who has been in hot water because of her stock trades that she made after a private briefing on the COVID-19 pandemic. So I expect Doug Collins to win the Senate seat, the special election, pretty easily over Reverend Raphael Warnock, who is the main Democratic challenger. Also, we won't really know who wins this election because of the way they do it. They do it in a jungle primary. So if no candidate receives over 50% of the vote, they go to a runoff election, and the Republican will win in that case. So tilt for the regular election, lean for the special election. Actually, I forgot about likely states. Colorado, I would label a likely Democratic state. Cory Gardner has linked himself to Donald Trump. There's no escaping the specter of Donald Trump in this state. He lost there in 2016, and he is going to lose again in 2020. He is incredibly unpopular in the state, especially amongst the suburban, wealthy, well-educated voters here. And I think that Cory Gardner's connection to Donald Trump is too much to overcome. I think that John Hickenlooper, despite his missteps, will still carry the state by likely, possibly even safe margins. I can also say the same for Arizona. I believe that this will be a likely Democratic state. They're running a failed candidate in Martha McSally. She lost the 2018 election to Kyrsten Sinema, and she was appointed by Governor Doug Ducey after John McCain died. Or after, John Kyle resigned, who took over that seat after McCain died. So, and not to mention the fact that Democrats are running arguably their best candidate in Mark Kelly. He is their best recruit. Sorry about the dings. I'm getting texts. He's their best recruit by far. Former astronaut, married to Gabby Giffords. I fully expect Mark Kelly to outperform Joe Biden's margins and carry the seat regardless of whether or not Joe Biden carries the state of Arizona. I'm just going to work west to east from now. We're going to start off with Montana. Montana is a very, very interesting state. It will be a likely to safe state for President Trump in the presidential election. But the Senate election is very interesting solely because of who the Democrats are running. Steve Bullock, the popular governor of Montana, who ran for president, actually, excuse me, he is running for the Senate against incumbent Senator Steve Daines. And there's been little polling out of the state. There's one public policy polling poll, which is a Democratic-affiliated organization that came out that showed Bullock up by 2. But other than that, there's really nothing coming out of Montana. I'm very excited to see more polling come out of the state. And as for now, this might be a controversial take, especially considering that there is a popular president on the ticket. It can go either way. I would rate this one as a pure toss-up. However, for now, I'm going to give it tilt to Steve Bullock due to his popularity and his moderation as a candidate. I will give it to the Democrats in Montana. So you can see 49 to 47. It seems very possible that Democrats can take control of the Senate. Especially, I'm going to operate under the assumption that Joe Biden wins the election. So we have a Democratic VP too. That's just an assumption I'm making, which is pretty fair at this point. As for Kansas is a very interesting election as well. It is a solid Republican state, and whether or not Democrats win the state depends on who wins the primary. Chris Kobach was the failed candidate for governor in 2018. He lost to Laura Kelly, a Democrat, and he is running for the Senate again. And he is expected to be the Republican candidate. The GOP establishment does not want this because his presence in this race makes it competitive. He is very hardline anti-immigration, very, very controversial, which did not help him in his gubernatorial election, and certainly will not help him in the Senate election. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that Chris Kobach is the candidate. If Chris Kobach is the candidate, then I would give Kansas to the Democrats by tilt margin. By tilt. I think that Barbara Bollier, the Democratic candidate, who was a former Republican, has great crossover appeal to those types of Republicans who are turned off by Kobach's rhetoric and what he has been saying. So I think that Barbara Bollier will carry this seat by the slimmest of margins if Chris Kobach is the nominee. However, if what's his name? A representative is running as well from Kansas. I can't remember his name quite right now, but if he wins the primary, then you can turn this into like a lean to likely Republican state, because Barbara Bollier is a very good candidate. As for Iowa is a state I expect to go to Donald Trump. And I think that his strength at the top of the ballot will carry over into Iowa. This is the closest to pure toss-up, I think. As of now, though, I'm going to give it to Joni Ernst, the incumbent, by a tilt margin. Theresa Greenfield is doing well in polls right now, and I believe that she's leading in the RCP average right now. However, I have a suspicion that Donald Trump's strength at the top of the ballot will be enough to carry Joni Ernst over the finish line. And Theresa Greenfield, she is a strong candidate, I'd say. She has appeal as a former, as a farm girl, as she calls herself. So I think that this election could go either way, but for now I'm going to give it tilt Republican. Tilt Republican. And just keep in mind that these two states, Kansas and Montana, I'm giving it to the Democrats because of the strength of their candidate, and Kansas I'm giving to the Democrats because of the relative weakness of their candidate. Keep that in mind. These states are all subject to change, I believe. North Carolina, I am going to give to the Democrats by a lean margin. I expect this state to go to Joe Biden in the 2020 election, and Cal Cunningham, Tom Tillis is the incumbent senator in that state. He's a freshman Republican elected in the 2014 wave, as most of these senators were. And I think that he is not in a good spot right now. He, along with many other Senate Republicans, have tied themselves too closely to Donald Trump. And that is going to harm them with moderates and independents who have increasingly become dissatisfied with the way the president is handling the COVID-19 pandemic. So I would give North Carolina to Cal Cunningham. Also, he is leading pretty heavily in the polls right now. I believe a new poll came out that showed him up by 7. And I think that though he will not win by 7 on election day, I can see him winning in the 3 to 4 point margin, somewhere in that range. I do believe that this is a pickup for the Democrats here, especially with Joe Biden on the ballot. And as for Maine, a Democratic state at heart, it has voted with the Democrats in most elections. However, the senator up for re-election is Susan Collins, a long-time senator who, at the beginning, in 2016, as recent as 2016, she was the most popular senator in the entire Senate, mainly because of her bipartisanship. She was seen as a moderate, someone who was willing to split with her party, and historically that has been true. She was one of the few senators to vote for the economic stimulus bill that Democrats came up with after the 2008 recession. That was incredibly unpopular with Republicans. Her and Lisa Murkowski were the only two Republicans, along with Olympia Snowe. I think Olympia Snowe was in the Senate at that point. However, Susan Collins has kind of lost that seal of bipartisanship due to her votes to approve Brett Kavanaugh, to put him on the Supreme Court, and not to impeach Donald Trump. those have significantly hurt her, and now she is the least popular senator in the entire country. Frankly, despite the fact that she won her last election by 30 points in Maine, I think that she is in a very perilous spot, and I expect her to lose her longtime Senate seat to the Democratic State House Speaker, Sarah Gideon. I think that Susan Collins, her unpopularity is it's going to kill her in the Senate. I don't think she will win this race, and I don't think she has a shot now, because she is, along with, I've talked about this, she along with other Senate Republicans have tied themselves too closely to Donald Trump, and as Donald Trump is expected to lose this election, their fates are tied to his, and as he falls, so do they. And so does the Republican majority in this scenario with 52 to 48 balance of power. However, this can all change. Donald Trump has proven that he is a different type of candidate. He can turn it around at any point, I believe. If for example, if coronavirus cases go down and if the economy comes back in a very strong way, I think that this election can turn for the better for the Republicans. However, as of now, the Democratic Party is in a very good spot electorally, and the Republicans are in a very dire place. So here's the balance of power, 52 to 48. And these are my Senate predictions for the 2020 election. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please subscribe, drop a like, comment, do whatever you want. Show this video to friends if you want. Hoping to get the channel off the ground, and thank you all for listening.